this is substantial. This is easily 3+ decades of you consistently working, and your enthusiasm of it hasn't tapered.
I don't know. I mean, I think the thing that keeps me going is oddly nostalgia. I have to constantly be bringing myself back to my 14, 15, 13-year-old self. I find all these crazy opportunities that happen, and then I just have to, it's like I have to pay tribute to the 14-year-old that I was. Like, he would be very mad at me if I were to turn this down or not to work with this artist or, not to add this project on. So yeah, that's kind of how I stay engaged and keep going. Otherwise, I'd recognize how tired I am.
This is the Inkpulp podcast.
It's a nostalgic day. We've got the whole team back here, Eric and Matteo, but we've got a special guest that's coming in to defeat Eric's Sith ways with his blue lights. We have Robert Kirkman on the show. Welcome to the Inkpulp podcast.
Hello.
Robert Kirkman, how are you?
Doing great.
So, just to get it out of the way, I'm going to keep calling you by your whole name up until you tell me, hey, which one? Like, I typically offline, I go Kirkman, but when we have a guest, I call them by their full name. Is it okay to call you Robert? Is it Rob? I don't want to get too familiar,
Please get familiar. I mean, we have kind of known each other for almost 20 years.
For sure.
But
for sure.
no, I mean, I don't know. People call me Robert. I think it's funny because I do find that when I'm not around, people tend to call me Kirkman. Which is fine, but no one does that to my face.
Right. I think it's primarily because there's like a whole gaggle of talented Robs out there in our industry, and referring to a Robert without the context of a surname gets really, really super difficult.
Fun fact.
All right. Robert, it is.
The character William in one of the early issues of Invincible, I think it's in issue 5 or 6, has this diatribe about how much he hates being called Will or Bill, and he hates having a name that people just arbitrarily decide to shorten, as if you could never possibly go by your full name. And it's like a 2 or 3 page indulgence that I wrote because I'm that guy. I don't understand. Like, can I call you Rob? Can I call you Bob? It's like, my name's Robert. You would never go to Shawn and go, can I call you Shaw?
Well, now I will, just to irk the hell out of him. All right, so thanks for showing up, man. You're really
Thanks,
classing
Bob.
up the joint.
Thank a lot for joining us.
Oh,
thank you.
See what I mean? The guy literally said, "Do not step on his land, man."
I'm happy to be here. I love you guys.
Did you know that surprised the heck out of me when I reached out to you and said, "Hey, do you want to?" I was really careful about it too, because I was thinking like, "Oh my gosh, man, this guy is in a rocket ship to the moon when it comes to his career. He's in several different universes outside of us. I don't want to bring him on and just tank the heck out of him, And you replied very quickly. You were like, "Oh yeah, I've been waiting for you to ask," and it almost broke my neck, that whiplash, to be like, "Why? Why would you want?"
We can't even keep Eric on the show.
Yeah.
I try to track the distance between Todd McFarlane appearing on a podcast and then them asking me, and the length of time between the Todd appearance and the ask makes me feel bad.
No, I think it's because we want to get you out of Todd's wake. You know what I mean? We want to give you your own full. Dude, thank you so much for being here. I shaved for this episode, and not because for anything. Like, Shawn made me nervous about having you come on. You spoke about this earlier. We had known each other for a while, right? Yeah. We've been talking back and forth. There's plenty of occasions where I text you and I'm all like, "Hey, insert stupid thing here," and you're cordial enough to reply back. But Shawn made me nervous about the episode, and so I was like, "Oh my gosh, Robert Kirkman's going to be on. I better shave my head," I don't do that for anybody. And then I went to the extra level, which I never do, which is like do research on the stuff that you've worked on. And it is a long list, man. Jamie, if you can go to this, and by the way, research is like me going to Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt. Sure. Yes. But if you take a look at this laundry list of stuff that you've done between whenever it is that you quote unquote started to where you are now, there is no downgrade. It just keeps going one next thing above another, right? So 2 things. 1, how do you maintain that kind of momentum, at least if not, how do you keep yourself straight in all of that stuff? And then two, what are you doing here? Like, why are you hanging out? What are we doing here? Why are we in this frickin'?
Is there something that you want to tell us? Like you have problems? Like
to answer your first question, there's a deep dark sickness inside of me. I've got a massive hole that will never be filled that I'm trying to fill with work. It's dark times over here, despite the lovely blue light. But no, I don't know. I do feel like I have to fill the time with things, and but I have a family. I spend time with my family and stuff. But
sure.
But I do. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get sad right at the beginning, but like it is kind of a cautionary tale. Like early in my career, I was so panicked about making things happen and making things work that I got into this mode where it's just like go 1,000 times a minute. And I haven't been able to get off that hamster wheel. So I just, producing stuff. And when I slow down, I'm like, what am I doing? I don't like this.
Yeah.
This is no fun. And so then I just jump back on the wheel and produce more stuff.
Also, then you'll have to deal more with your family, which is, another.
I do.
So it's just me? Okay, it's just me.
No,
that's just you, Matteo. Matteo is raising Damien right now.
Oh my gosh. I can read it off. It starts from, I'm not going to, but like I have to keep scrolling up until like the beginning. It says literally in Wikipedia, it says early work and it says Battle Pope, and I can scroll all the way down into the Skybound related stuff. And there is no gap, dude. There's no like, hey, this guy he decided to just disappear into the Alps for like, 2 or 3 years. Cause you're okay at this point. We don't have to get into like the financials of it, but technically right now you have you have like a house made out of like gold bricks, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not on a chair. I usually just sit on a brick of cash.
Yeah.
No, you have a human being down there. You just sit on human beings, basically.
Well, that got dark.
Can we talk about that? Can we talk about that?
Alive. I'm not saying they're dead. They're dead bodies. They're alive.
That's positive. And you feed them regularly.
The live ones are more expensive.
Yeah. According to their agent.
Yeah, I was recently able to upgrade.
Let's talk about that hustle. I mean, we have a huge appreciation. We have Jim on and a ton of other creators that come on, and there is no off button for that hustle, right?
Yeah.
What is that? How do you maintain that, dude? Where is the energy drink? What is the energy drink that you're drinking? This is substantial. This is easily 3+ decades of you consistently working. And your enthusiasm of it hasn't tapered, in my opinion, or at least from my limited vantage.
There's the off day where I'm like, why am I doing this?
Oh, sure. Shawn has that a lot. He has that right. Like I'm having that right now. I
don't know. I mean, I think the thing that keeps me going is oddly nostalgia. You'll see my Transformers, the movie poster over here. And, it's just I have to constantly be bringing myself back to my like 14, 15, 13-year-old self to, just to remind myself like, oh my God, like you grew up reading Savage Dragon and loving that comic and you were able to do 144 issues of Invincible and, tell your own kind of story and do a ton of issues and I have to constantly like plug back in and remind myself how fortunate I am and how lucky I am and then it's like, oh, I've got an opportunity to do this, I'll do that. I've got an opportunity to do this, I'll do that. I find all these crazy opportunities that happen and then I just have to, it's like I have to pay tribute to the 14-year-old that I was. Like he would be very mad at me if I were to turn this down or not to work with this artist or, not to add this project on. So that's kind of how I stay engaged and keep going. Otherwise I'd recognize how tired I am.
Yeah. Yeah. You almost have to kind of lie to yourself and say, I have an extra gear that I can shift into. By the way, it's not going unnoticed that was an amazing flex that you just did, but also it's worth congratulations. You said 150+ issues of Invincible. Yeah. Holy cow, man. Congrats. That's not a run. That's a legacy. Congratulations, dude.
Thanks.
Congratulations. Really, really, really well
that's
done.
a
It
big
sets
one.
the bar very, very high. Congratulations on you got the
Listen, I'm on a
second
podcast
season.
of
Yeah.
artists, so I'm just going to interrupt and say I wrote 144 issues of Invincible. I didn't draw them. So, it's a completely different prospect. It was a sliver of my month for 15 years. And,
Sure.
I was able to do Walking Dead at the same time and a bunch of other projects. So I will just say off the beat, writing is easier than drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate
And
that.
Actually, fun
Go ahead, Shawn.
fact: we have been trying to nail down a date for Ryan to come on, and months ago I asked him on this date. Me and Matteo were with him at a show, and he's like, "Email me," and I was like, "All right." And then I did it and never heard back. And so Eric was like, "Hey, let me ask Robert if he can come on." I was like, "Well, that'd be awesome." And then you committed to this date. I was like, "All right." And then Ryan emailed me last week. He's like, "Hey guys, are we doing this?" I was like, "Ryan, I never heard from you."
We should have done it. We should have done it together. But no,
Yeah.
Ryan is busy
I was
drawing
thinking the
Battlefield
same.
right now, and I'm here.
Yeah,
doing
dude.
it. So that's how that works.
Again,
So speaking of Battle
congratulations.
Beast, you have
Congratulations,
what's the
man.
plan for it? Like, you have is it gonna be like a huge thing, like a big thing in terms of number of
Yeah.
issues, or you have a shorter end in mind?
It's not going to go 144 issues, but kind of right now we're playing it by ear. We're having a really good time. The book has been really successful, and so it's going to go for a while. We're already working on. We're getting ready to start issue 9, so we're still fairly ahead of schedule. We're gonna keep going until we feel like we've hit like a natural endpoint. I have a beginning, middle, and end of the story that I'm trying to tell with Battle Beast, but there's a lot of room to expand on that and kind of have fun with it. And as we get deeper into the run, I kind of want to do some like 3-issue long fight scenes. Just because I think it'd be,
That's awesome.
it's the kind of book that I feel like
That's
it
fun.
could work in. And so as we get into that stuff, the book may expand and contract depending on like how the fight scenes go and if I think they can actually expand and fit that space. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be 24 issues, could be 18 issues, could be 36, could be 50. Like we'll see.
Yeah. So is there? I was wondering because right now, I'm writing and drawing my own thing, and one thing that I noticed is right now, especially speaking to Rick Remender a couple of years ago about the story. Right now I have the need of planning out everything, so knowing exactly how many issues gonna be, and then putting every special reveal or special moments at specific moments and specific times and blah blah blah. Were you like that at first, and then you learn how to invent things and include things as things go? So is that a skill that you develop, or you always build the story that way? Like, meaning, I know I have a beginning, a mid part, and an ending, but then I can develop the story for even 50 issues if required.
I think, when I started on Battle Pope, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And so I didn't even write scripts back then. I laid out bad versions of the pages, and then Tony Moore would draw the book based on those. And those had the dialogue, word balloons, and everything like placed. And it was kind of like how Alan Moore would do like bad drawings but I'm not comparing myself to Alan Moore. I was terrible. I still am. And back then I didn't know what issue 2 was going to be. I didn't even know what the end of the issue was half the time when I was like 10 pages into an issue. I would say that shortly after that, I kind of got the idea of at least planning tent poles to work towards. So I'm kind of like, making things up as I go, but I know that I'm going to have this scene that I can hang my hat on, that I know is going to deliver, that I know is going to pivot the story forward and keep things moving and make things interesting. And so I can meander on my way to that. And I'll try to have like 3 or 4 of those. If in a long running series, I'll have like 3 or 4 of those and I won't know what's after that. And that's kind of how I did Invincible and Walking Dead. And when I would get to those big moments, I would try to add another. And with Walking Dead, sometimes those moments were as simple as they find a prison and they live there for a while. And so while I'm writing the Herschel Farm stuff, I know that eventually they're going to leave there and go to a prison. And it's like, okay, that's another 10, 15 issues, whatever. For a time, when I was doing Oblivion Song and Firepower, I had just come off of doing Walking Dead and Invincible, and I didn't want to do big, long-running, open-ended series. Because if I did a bunch more of those, I'd probably end up being dead by the time they were done. But
I understand the feeling.
So that was very planned out. And I knew exactly what the last issues were. I knew, what was going to happen along the way. And it was kind of like checking boxes, if I'm honest. Yeah. It's okay. I'm at this stuff. Okay, fine. And I got to get to this. And I found it frustrating at times because with both Oblivion Song and Firepower, there would be places where I could meander and do more interesting stuff that had come to me in the moment. But I had already kind of had the agreement with the artist that it was only going to be a certain length. And I didn't want to drag things out or expand the book. And so I just couldn't do that stuff. And I found it very frustrating. So when I started Void Rivals, I went back to kind of the way I was doing Invincible and Walking Dead, where I have these roadmaps and I have what I'm doing, but I have the freedom to go, this character is interesting. I'm going to do a whole issue about them.
Let's develop it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of the way I prefer to work. I prefer to have like a parachute if I need to open it.
Yeah.
But I'm basically falling and figuring it out as I go. Which I don't know is also not even that accurate because I'm constantly thinking about the stories and I'm constantly writing notes. So I always have preparation, but it's so loose that I can do almost anything. And it's that discovery in the writing process that makes me the most excited. And I feel like it translates because, when I have a story that's set, but then page 9 and 10 are this 2-page sequence that just came out of nowhere that just completely changes the story. That's when I get most excited. And I feel like it does translate to the final product.
Right on, man.
Yeah. It also makes sense because it's closest to life, I think, it's, basically life is the main part of life is dealing with unexpected things that happen. That's, where you develop the skills to live a proper life. So I think I'm not able to reason that way yet. Like I'm still, I'm still in control freak mode. But again, talking to Rick, he was making fun of me because I was explaining the story to him. It was like, okay, so it's going to be like 20 issues. I'm like, no, it's going to be like 5 issues. It's like, I already know what's going to be happening in issue number 1 at the end of issue number 2. It's like, yeah, you see, you want to be that little magician up in the sky that looks at everything and knows everything about everything. You want to control everything. That's not how it works, And I understood, but I don't have that skill yet. So I'm really curious whenever I see a writer that's able to, develop stories that last so long. I'm really curious to see if it's something that you develop consciously or not, or it just happens,
I would say that you probably have the skill, you just don't have the comfort level. So because you're like putting a lot of importance on this because it's your first thing and you want it to be perfect. I mean, it's not is it the first thing that you're writing and drawing? I believe that's.
I used to write, but years and years ago. Then I had so much
Italian comics.
Drawing that. Yeah, exactly. So
I think Robert should change the background color to red now. I think that's full on.
If only I had that button set up.
In my side. Yeah. Is this the first thing that see? Like, I think number one, you did. You're setting.
It's switching.
Matteo.
It's switching.
Oh no!
Oh no!
He's halfway
there. Oh, thank you.
There was a point in that conversation where he's like, you as a writer, Matteo, it's probably got a lot to do with like comfort instead of skill. And I shook my head because that's you giving Matteo like a tiny bit of a compliment. And it's just going to get out of control. The thing that Rick did was smart because he
on my
knew
social
him.
media now, I'm going to write like
Writer.
Robert Kirkman says that I'm one of the most talented writers ever. That's my translation in my head. That's how my head translates it.
Akin to Alan Moore.
Yeah. As good as, if not better than, legendary Alan Moore. So that's one thing I recognize. The other one is because, by the way, thank you for that comprehensive answer, Robert. But there was a bit there where you said Walking Dead, and both me and Matteo were shaking our heads like we know what that title is. You know, like that's amazing. But then I took a quick glance at Shawn, and Shawn was doing the circular head nod, you know, which I was like, I don't think Shawn knows what Walking Dead is.
Right.
You know,
right,
I don't think
Eric. I have no idea.
he doesn't even know those two words,
And
much
Shawn,
less
this
together.
guy up here, he's the guy who created it.
Yeah.
What is it?
Did you
What
know
are we
that?
talking about?
I was listening to, just again in slight prep, I was listening to your episode with Rob Liefeld yesterday. And by the way Rob does an interview, I get nervous. You know, and he's just got this great and in the most complimentary way, like manic energy. And I could tell you guys playing, you know, conversational ping pong. I was like, this could go anywhere right now because Rob's energy is almost uncontainable.
He asked my energy up when I'm talking to him. Like, oh, okay, I got But I'll circle back to one of the earlier answers. Knowing Rob, talking to Rob, hanging out with Rob, talking to Rob frequently also keeps me energized about comics because that guy lives and breathes the comic industry. He is so plugged in. He knows all the news. He knows all the books that are coming out. And he just has this like unbridled passion for comics. He's very opinionated. And it's kind of awesome, but to talk to somebody like of his stature that's been in the industry as long as he has been, who still has that passion is inspiring to me. So I love chatting with that guy.
But that's not one-sided, though. Again, listening to the conversation, your energy was different than his, but both you and he are plugged into a bunch of different things, you know? So that actually was interesting to me to understand that level of longevity, because me personally, I have a tendency to get bored very quickly, and it's a curse. You can ask anybody. I'm bored right now, to be perfectly honest with you. But like, I don't know how you guys.
Do you see what he does, Robert? This is what he does. He pumps you up, compliments. Now you're boring me.
Not you guys. It's not you
It's
guys.
an abusive
That's boring.
relationship.
I mean, I didn't say you guys are boring. That's a me issue. You guys are amazing.
Am I boring?
No, 0%, dude. You just did something with the lights. Like a cat, I was paying attention, you know?
Oh, great.
I was wholly distracted by the light changes. What is the thing that, and it's primarily comics, it feels like...
Go.
It feels...
I'm playing with the lights.
You're going to turn the camera off in a second, and that's going to be my cue to go too, you know? You know, how do you continue that enthusiasm? I know you said in as far as work, but you staying plugged into the comic book industry, in as much as Rob is, I think it's in both of your guys' DNA. Am I misrepresenting that? Because it just seems like you love comics.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge part of my life. I've been reading comics since I was 13 years old, and I haven't ever stopped. I've gone to comic shops pretty regularly. I've gotten busy in recent years, so my comic shop visiting is a little more sporadic. But I'm still getting comics, still reading comics, still loving comics, and I don't know. And I'm absolutely obsessed with comic art. I think that's another thing that really keeps me going. You have that epiphany where it's like, hey, if I write more, I get to see more art from artists that I love working with that, comes in more frequently. And so that also drives me. And working with artists that I absolutely love and being able to try to conceive images that they'll enjoy drawing and that I'll enjoy looking at and that make books cool and memorable and exciting. There's really nothing like it.
Man.
I'm working on the Invincible show, and animation is fun, and animation to me is a lot better than live action because it's a lot more like comics. You're actually working with artists. There's, designers and board artists and all these people that are actually working on the final product. There's artists that work in live action, of course, but,
Sure.
Actors on set and, I want to stand here. I don't want to stand there. We can't do this action sequence because we didn't schedule enough stunt people for the day. So we're going to change it to this or change it to that. There's so much compromise on sets and animation. There's still some compromise, but it's a lot more freeing and there's, a lot more creative looseness and things because of the fact that it's, on Invincible, it's all drawn art. And so that's a lot of fun, but it just doesn't compare to comics. It's,
wow, that's so cool.
There's something really special about it. I don't really know how to put it into words.
No, I kind of get the spirit of what you're talking about. I'm going to continue to ask questions, but I'm looking at Shawn in our screen, and I can't tell whether or not he's being respectful to the conversation and just letting it flow, or if he's so nervous, like
disgusting me.
What are you talking about?
You wearing your stupid hat, your fucking room, your shit on your desk.
See?
Jesus Christ, man.
We've got two Erics on the show now.
Face front like the rest of us. What the fuck?
Yeah. Here's what you guys don't know is I called Robert earlier.
I think we found the clip to promote this episode.
And I said,
Robert,
like, hey man,
roast Shawn.
start off like as kind and as open as possible, and just lay into Shawn really hard. Now, the point I was trying to make
what is this fucking shirt hanging on the door? What the fuck?
Who did you steal that from, Shawn? I can't tell if Shawn's hands are on his lap squeezing his thighs because he's so nervous about having you on and he's just waiting for the right question to ask.
What are you doing?
Shawn, this is your show. I know you have 2 or 3 questions lined up in the clip. Can you ask them without like a quivering voice because you're so nervous, or do you want to like text it to me?
Matteo, help me out here. What is he talking about?
You have a quiver.
My question is, why does Eric do this? He makes up
Shawn, I don't know if you knew that, but this is a Pile on the Jew Day. So now I start with my insults. And
come on, Matteo, your turn. Your turn. Bring it on.
I will say this is the charm of this podcast: is these 2 sweet bearded guys asking kind questions, and this demon that just comes in and hosts them from his red dungeon. It's the best. And Eric, I mean that as a compliment. I'm not attacking you.
Trust me, he knows it's a compliment.
Your strength gives me strength. Like I really love I like the compliments. There is something else that there is a version of you, and I heard it in Rob's podcast, but also in a handful of conversations offline with people. Okay. That you had an era, I would say, like of you just hustling, trying to get as many. I remember talking to EJ a long time ago about Tech Jacket.
Yeah.
Because we all kind of grew up in the same message boards. It was that era of comics where people were coming up, sharing people's artwork, finally making headway into breaking in, and then just sharing those pieces of artwork online. But you were on a high level of hustle. As a matter of fact, Rob made a quick joke about it. We're like, I do this book called Battle Pope, and he's like, I'm probably never going to read that. But it just goes to show you were trying to get your projects in front as many people as possible, right?
Yeah.
What was that like in that space? And then part 2 of the question is like in the new space of comic books now, is there any advice that you can impart to somebody who's coming up? You know, Robert Kirkman 2.0 in this day and age, what would you do the same or different?
I mean, nowadays, I don't know. I think that I had to print comics and I had to go to physical places. I would go anytime I would travel. I'd go to Florida to visit my grandparents. Anytime I'd visit any family anywhere, I would go to the comic shop in that local town and I would bring my comics and I would give them to them. And, do you like this? Try to order this. It's available through Diamond. Here's the trade. Here's some single issues here, just really hustling. And I do remember
Hustle.
there were some comic shops where they'd say, I'm sorry, I'm not the guy that buys comics. And like, no, I'm giving this to you. And they'd be like, I can't take that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to leave this on the shelf and just walk away. If you can look at this, that was an actual conversation I had with a person once. So I think nowadays it's a little, I think Kickstarter is a big change. I think that's something that I would have just been over the moon if that was available to me in the past. And I think that the internet in general and web comics, it's a completely different environment. I think I think social media is kind of not as functional as it once was. Sure. So that's kind of a bummer. But before that happened, to be able to have a web comic on the internet and build a social media platform like space and be sending that out to people seems easier. But that's also an old man looking at the new technology going, I think this would have been easier for me. I have no idea. It could be harder. So I don't know. But I will say the thing that I did then that I think would be beneficial to people now is just make stuff. Don't make the one comic and try to run around with that. Make the one comic, run around making the second comic, and then the third comic, and then the fourth comic. And another thing that really served me early on in my career is I was the Battle Pope guy. Then I was the Super Patriot guy. Then I was the Tech Jacket guy. Then I was the Invincible guy. Then I was the Walking Dead guy, the Capes guy, the Cloudfall guy, the Brit guy, all in like 18 months.
18?
Okay. Yeah, it was like 2002 to
2003,
to the start of 2004.
Holy cow, dude!
And again, that's advice for writers.
Yeah.
Artists can't do that. And if you're an artist, maybe try writing. But it's an easier path. But and I think that what that did was someone who heard about Battle Pope but did not try it would go, oh, it's Super Patriot. That's that Battle Pope guy I heard about, but I never bought that because I could never find issue 1 or issue 2 or any of them.
Sure.
I'll try Super Patriot. And that kind of snowballed. And each one of those projects sold poorly, but they always sold like a little increment better. And it was also building like this perception critical mass thing where it was like, oh, I've got to pay attention to this guy. He's got so many things coming out. And Walking Dead and Invincible finally hit. But a lot of people like Walking Dead and Invincible came out in the same year, but so did Capes. So did Brit. I think, Brit did. And this thing Cloudfall that I did, all those failed. But Walking Dead and Invincible hit. And so I talk to people all the time that are starting out in their career and they've done one book and I've done everything I can. I'm trying to get this book to do better. And I don't know what I'm going to do. And I just say, cancel it, do something else.
Wow.
Like if I was still trying to make Battle Pope work, where would I be? I would be this guy, who had done 30 issues of Battle Pope over the last 20 years and, it wouldn't have worked out. But because I cycled through projects as fast and if it's your dream project, once you've found that thing that's successful, then you can go back to it. So I don't know. I feel like I've answered long enough that I may have answered I feel like I've talked long enough that I may have answered your question.
No, that was perfect. Somewhere in there is the answer. I'm sure outside of the answer, obviously it's fascinating to think that my bigger takeaways are, and it's aligned to what we heard from, or at least what I heard from Todd McFarlane, was that there was this critical mass of him doing Spawn, and eventually it became undeniable, right? And I think it's similar to you, where you're saying there was just a mass of work out there, good, bad, or indifferent, right? Where you're like, hey, wait a second, that's relevant because of just the volume. And then from there, it became about people started digging into the quality, or it may be interchangeable in that space, right? But it's pretty interesting where you're like saying, hey, just keep putting out work, because eventually something in there is going to be relevant enough for people to start paying attention. Not just based on the work itself. As a creator, people know that you're consistent, rather than having just the 1 or 2 books that you kind of hold on to and hoping to make headway that way. So there's all that too, but it's also practice.
and you're forcing yourself to get better. You're forcing yourself and you're also forcing yourself to kind of get acclimated to working at the pace that a comic book professional has to work at to make a living. You know.
Yeah, I guess one of the most
Matteo's
difficult.
sake, what's the pace? From Matteo's point of reference, because I don't think he quite understands it. What's the pace?
Well, Matteo is very fast. What are you guys talking about? But, you know, in an ideal world, it would be great if an artist could do a book a month. But I think that the professional pace is like 5 to 6 weeks an issue. That's usually what people tend to do when they're on monthly books these days. And that means that there's going to be fill-ins and things like that, which is kind of unfortunate. I do, you know, if we're doing advice for artists, which we're not, but I'll keep talking. I will say that Todd McFarlane is the best example of a working monthly artist in possibly the history of comics, at least from his point up. You go further back and the styles were simpler and that all made sense. Sure. But Todd is a fascinating case study if you really pay attention to his art, because he is possibly the most popular comic book artist to have ever worked in comics. And if you go back and you look at his Amazing Spider-Man run, his Incredible Hulk run, when he was really pumping out the work and doing a monthly book, there'd be a page where it's just like, I drew an ankle and a tire and an eyeball and a plug in a wall, and they put lettering around it, and that was that day's page. And then the next day, close up on a face and close up on a hand. And then 2 days after that, there'd be the most insane splash page of Spider-Man or the Hulk you've ever seen. But then there'd be 3 pages after that where it's the back of some guy's head, the bottom of a car. And it's just, I'm designing the page that I can draw this day. And that's the kind of mindset that you have to have if you want to do monthly comics, I think.
That's right. That tracks.
But
I think another fact. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, writers, you know, you want to write 2 to 3 scripts a month, sometimes more, but that's usually the clip that writers have to work to make a living.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Matty.
I was saying that probably one of the factors that make artists slower nowadays, I think, is also that nowadays most of the artists, they don't use an inker, so they do everything by themselves, and I think that slows down the pace like a lot. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, there's it's very rare now. Most of the people that have an inker, they are the older school at least artists.
Yeah, that's true.
But most of the new talents we see, they're all inking themselves. Most of the time digitally, so I might be quicker, but still it affects like the rhythm a lot, I think.
I mean, maybe. My theory is that most artists these days care too much. Like, care less. You know, like it's like, don't pay it. Like, anatomy doesn't have to be accurate. You know, who's going to judge you? It's already printed. You've made your money. Get the hell out of there. You know, care less.
I will say, as a writer whose opinion doesn't matter, I will say that one thing I agree with you, Eric, and I will just add, all artists should find comfort in the fact that the percentage of people that are looking at their work that are artists is very low. So like struggling for that perfection that you seek in your own work. And look, it's all about personal fulfillment. And so if that's what is really important to you,
for sure,
go for it. But I talk to so many people that I talk to people that can't tell the difference between this artist or that artist. I talk to people that, you know, are like, I read this comic in 2 minutes, and it's like, well, then you didn't look at the pictures. And it's you don't really understand like how other people are seeing this work and what they're keying in on. Yeah. And I think that really kind of like shows that Todd's approach to the page like really is, you know, if people are only going to remember 3 pages from an issue anyway, then put all the effort in those 3 pages, make everything else serviceable. But, you don't have to make sure that every single, these Travis Charest pages where every single panel could be a splash page.
Sure.
What are you doing, man?
Right.
Like, I love it. But.
Yeah. You were, in working with Invincible, I think this is where my brain shifts into, is that there is the.
Can I interrupt you for a second, Eric?
Yeah, man.
For a moment, when Robert mentioned Travis Charest, I'm imagining like 144 issues of Invincible. Imagine Travis Charest having to draw them all. Like how many decades it would take.
Yeah. It
would look better than Ryan's issues, though. Am I right?
Anyway, we want Ryan to show up, so we're going to say no. It probably is perfect as it is. No,
I'm going to tell him that you guys made me say that.
Show him the PayPal account where we sent you 45 cents so you could. To go back to what you're saying, Robert, there is the production version. And I think people keep forgetting that part about comics. I know that sounds like it's a slight, but it's not, right? There is a production version of making comics that I think people have a tendency to, they'll cite high bar things like Dark Knight and Electra Lives and all those kinds of things. But that took time. When you're on the monthly book, there's got to be a gear that you have to shift into as an artist to be like, I have to forgive myself for the least, perfect version of this, because I know I got to get 20 some odd pages done for each month. I think it's to your point. Not everybody is going to hyperfixate on whether or not you got the drapery right. They're paying attention to how well that picture stands up the narrative and vice versa, right? So it doesn't have to be perfect all the time. My wife is running into that exact same thing. She's like hyperfixating on how perfect the anatomy needs to be as opposed to like telling the story. Nobody really cares about like the wrinkle at the elbow where it bends, she will, but at the end of the day, it's a small percentage of the overall experience that is panel to panel sequential work, so, pro tip, let me go back to what I said earlier, care less.
Yeah.
Care in the right spots. If you were to point at Todd McFarlane's mantra.
Well, I would also ask you guys: can you not admit that there have been gestures that you've achieved when you're rushing, or some kind of loose drawing that you've had where you just look at it and you're like, how do I get more of that in my work? Like, that looks really cool. I really like that. These things happen as happy accidents when you're, just kind of running through things and doing things. And I think, when you're rushing through a comic, like, you may actually have more of those end up on the page if you're in that production mode.
Yeah.
Talk about absolutely. That, Shawn. It's a double-edged sword because, of course, when you work that instinctively, you run into these happy accidents, which are the best, at least for me, those are the best moment for an artist.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they come with a lot of other shit that it's not that good. So you have, again, as Eric and you, Robert, were saying as well, you got to have the other part of the brain that's learn how to accept those moments as well. You got to be like, okay, I was trying to achieve that. And with that comes the fact that 50% of the time I'm not going to achieve it, and I'm going to accept the fact that it didn't happen there, So
when that happens, you can rely on your good friend Eric to call you out on it, like his love of Mr. Freeze.
All right, listen.
Are you guys friends?
We're friendly.
Frenemies.
Friendly.
Frenemies. This is the Frenemies podcast.
Yeah, we're friendish. Friendish-ish.
Matteo, tattoos. I mean, enough is enough.
I think Robert is my spirit animal, because that's exactly what I was thinking at that very specific time. I was about to lob the question to Shawn, because I think that's very relevant to Shawn's overall sort of like evolution as an artist. There was a point when he was doing the tight thumbnails, capturing the gesture, and Shawn, correct me if I'm wrong, but you would sit there and just like overthink that pose, and only up until recently did you kind of, what was the critical mass? What was the point where you're like, I got to stop? I got to stop shooting myself in the foot.
It wasn't so much that I said I had to stop. It was I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have the confidence or knowledge in my art to like, as we're talking about, like taking quick leaps and developing shorthand and all that, that comes with practice. That comes with repetitive doing. That comes with learning. And my art just wasn't at a place where I could rely on instinct enough to just let it go. And what happened is, just through the act of doing, my instincts got stronger and my confidence in them got stronger. So I could just lean on them more.
Yeah. That's awesome. I was timing how long it took you to do that answer, and I think that's the appropriate amount for each episode.
Christ. What a fucking douchebag.
The best.
What's going on with you today, man?
No, hold on. I'm sorry. I said that out loud. I didn't mean to fucking.
He's trying to look good in front of Robert. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
It really, it was
what's going on.
At its core. I really feel bad.
What
when
he's
we talk
doing,
over
Matteo,
Shawn.
I'll translate. What he's doing, he's like, I need to make Shawn and Matteo look really bad.
No.
So I'll look really good. So when Robert needs some freelance work, he'll come to me before those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
how desperate he is.
I let the little
go ahead,
angel.
go ahead, Eric. Go ahead. Get your work.
I was saying that I felt really bad that Shawn was super quiet this entire episode. Oftentimes I go, hey, I end up talking over both Shawn and Matteo and my enthusiasm whenever there's a guest here, so they don't.
So now when Shawn speaks, I'm just going to jab him every time he opens.
Like I said, that was a failure on my part because I let the words come out. Wait. You know, the vibe, the intrusive thoughts.
That was a what on your part?
That was a fault on my part. I shouldn't have opened my mouth.
Whoa! Did you hear that, Matteo?
Turn this into a therapy session, you fucking assholes.
So Robert, getting back to the podcast and the serious thing for a second.
Whatever, man. We can do whatever. It's all good.
No, you mentioned like 10 minutes ago, before Eric started bashing Shawn once again. So you mentioned Kickstarter.
How thick on those? How thick are the rims do you need in your glasses, Shawn? What the hell, man? What are you trying to do?
So you mentioned Kickstarter, and your company Skybound used Kickstarter in various occasions, especially for a compendium edition of the. I remember specifically the Transformer and G.I. Joe compendiums, and they went great. So, is Kickstarter something that you're thinking of? You know, are you gonna use it more and more, or the plan is just to use it for a compendium once you have a certain number of issues ready? What's the deal with it? The reason why I'm asking is because we've been thinking a lot about Kickstarter with kickstarting some of our stuff. So we're really curious.
I think Kickstarter has kind of, to me, it's kind of transitioned into like a pre-order tool. It was something that games were doing a lot, where they would do big game sets and you'd pre-order them through Kickstarter, and then they could add different things. What Skybound does with them, this is not the internal official, but it's like cool, dumb shit that's like way too unwieldy to do for the mass market. So our Kickstarter compendium box set things are so expensive to produce, and they're very high end, that actually selling them through traditional distribution channels would make them not a viable product, because when you divvy up the money with the distributors and the retailers and everybody, we end up losing money, which I'd be all about just to have a cool box set, but it's not good business and it would hurt us in the long run. But through Kickstarter, we can do all the bells and whistles and spot gloss and foil papers and all kinds of weird stuff, and embossed covers, and really do a high-end product. Because we're selling it direct, and it's been really great for that, because then we get to do these really high end, ridiculous, cool books that are, fairly economical and actually, get to the consumer in a streamlined way. So that's the reason that we do it. And we'll be doing more of that as we come up with more like very high end, crazy, cool products.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. I also had another question, and this goes back to the writing and all that stuff. So now that, I mean, we briefly talked about, Invincible, Walking Dead, they started as a comic book, and they, became great successes on the screen too.
Yeah.
Did it change the fact that they were so successful? Did it change something the way you write? Meaning that now you're aware of the fact that there's a fair chance that what you're doing, when writing a new series, for example, there's a fair chance that this will get translated eventually in a TV show or eventually a movie or whatever. Does that change your perspective when trying to create something new? If that makes sense as a question.
Yeah. No, I mean, it can. And sometimes I find myself thinking, well, how would this be adapted? What is this?
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah. So I'll be working on a project and I'll think, oh, is that a hard adaptation? Is that an easy adaptation? Like, can this translate to live action? Is that a thing? And then I start yelling at myself. No, what's wrong with you? That's not what you were thinking when you did Walking Dead. You were just following your passion and doing something that excited you and doing something cool. And so I do actively fight that urge to try and maintain the purity of what I've done. Yeah. You can see that in Walking Dead, kind of, because issue 70 was out when the series started. And around issue 100, 104 or whatever, I start introducing a guy that has a tiger. There's like all these ridiculous things that start cropping into the book because I would be writing or plotting the book and I would find myself going, well, how are they going to put a tiger in the show? And then I'd go, no, that's not how you think. You can't do that. You had an idea for a tiger and you're going to put a tiger in this book. Who cares how they do it in the show? And the funny thing about that is, had the show not existed, I may have decided to put a tiger in the book and then thought to myself, well, this is kind of ridiculous.
That's a fucking stupid idea.
not really realistic to have a guy have a pet tiger. I mean, this is a pretty grounded book. I don't know, kind of weird. I really probably shouldn't do this. And then there would be no Shiva the tiger in Walking Dead. And maybe Walking Dead would be less cool because of it. But yeah, so by trying to avoid the adaptation influencing me, the adaptation may have influenced me. But yeah, when I'm doing new comics, I do not consider at all. Sometimes I do comics because I laugh to myself and go, well, this is going to be very hard to adapt. Like, we'll see how this goes. And I've never done anything in the hopes that it will be adapted. I think, I mean, people are.
Yeah, you consider that just an happy consequence. Let's put it this way.
Right. Because you can't say, oh, this one's definitely going to get picked up because of X, Y, and Z. I verbally said out loud, I don't think The Walking Dead will ever get adapted. You know why? I don't own zombies. Why would anyone adapt The Walking Dead? They could just do The Walking Dead and change the title.
Right.
Rick Grimes is now Paul Smith,
Sure.
That's a real guy. Yeah. I don't know why I picked that name. Anyway, but then Walking Dead somehow got adapted and turned into a successful show, and I could have never foreseen that. So it's a fool's game to think that you can ever predict anything like that. So I really just think about what the best comic could be and try to do that. And, it's whatever I get excited about and whatever I'm most passionate about, that's what I do. And I think that it's easy to get artists to work with me because there is a pretty good track record there and things might get adapted, but I don't know. I have so many things that have gotten very, very close and then collapsed at the last minute. And it's very frustrating, but after you've had that happen 20, 30 times, it's just, okay, another one of these. I guess we keep moving on and try something else.
Robert, when Walking Dead got picked up and put out on TV, it was kind of like this boom era of comic book properties, like transitioning to film and TV. Do you feel like that's something that's waning now? Like Hollywood's interest in the comic book stuff?
I mean, I don't think so. Criminal is in production at Amazon. I got to be careful with my lists because I don't know what's announced and what's not announced, which I used to be really good at, but lately not so much. I know that it's public that Witches is being worked on as an animated series. There's so many things coming out or in production. I don't think it's waned at all. I think that maybe because of the streaming era, everything has grown so much that it's all white noise. And so I know things get announced. I mean, Revival's on Sci-Fi right now. There's so many things that are still in production and getting, I just think it's that there's so much going on that people just don't key in on things as much. We're all watching 1,000 different shows and nobody's watching the same shows and everything's bifurcated. That's the word I'm looking for. But
Yeah. I mean, I can follow up on that. I had just talked to two or three of my friends after. I'm lying, by the way. I don't have 2 or 3 friends. Anyway, I was talking to 2 or 3 friends.
2 or 3 friends here.
Yeah. Friend adjacent. About this new show that just came out.
Fuck these guys.
Sorry, that speaks to me so much. I laugh at it. Aliens just came out. Alien Earth just came out yesterday. 2 episodes just premiered, and most of my friends who are huge in that franchise didn't even know that it was coming out. So it just goes to show everybody's attention is being spread pretty thin as far as what new thing has been announced, what new thing is coming out, what new thing have been canceled. My wife is a huge Raised by Wolves fan, heartbroken at the idea it didn't get picked up for a 3rd season. It's just, there's just so much content that's just being pumped out there that it's hard to, number one, understand hey, which one of this stuff is going to be relevant as an audience? You get a tiny bit of fatigue to be like, am I going to invest in this if it's one and done kind of thing? So to see Walking Dead at this is the 2nd season of Invincible? Third, second, right?
Third just finished.
There you go. So 3rd season, Walking Dead has been going on forever. I think it's in people's mind as far as replay is concerned. It's never gone off air, right? So to see that level of
and now
continuity.
two new series have just started. So
I say too much Walking Dead.
Yeah, it's on. You think so? You think there's a Walking Dead cutoff? Yeah. Listen, I'm glad that you said out loud what my intrusive thoughts said internally. But you're our guest, so I'm trying to be as cordial as possible. Less so to these guys. But yeah, to your point, I think there is a feeling of there's a boom, and I understand where Shawn's coming from, where it's I feel like it's slowing down, but I don't know if that's true. But it's more I think the attention is just starting to spread too thin.
Yeah. I mean, the Alien Earth thing is so true. I actually was watching TV last night and I was like, oh, Alien Earth is out. I was like, I'll watch that tomorrow. And I'm so excited about that show. But there's so much stuff going on that it is hard to keep track or dive in on the first day or whatever.
Yeah. You almost want to wait until it's absolutely it's 100% bingeable. First season, see what's worth your time. Okay, that's my energy for an hour. Somebody else is going to have to do this show now. We
forgot to plug, if you had anything to plug, Robert. I know that in September you have the new series with with Finch.
I mean, just run through some stuff. I got Skinbreaker coming out in September with the esteemed Mr. David Finch. I got Transformers. I'm starting to run on Transformers issue 25 coming out in October with Dan Mora. I got a new Cape series launching in November, I think. Yeah, November. And then I'm doing more Void Rivals. Invincible Season 4 coming out next year at some point. I got the Invincible Versus video game coming out next year. I don't know. I got a lot of stuff going on. There's all kinds of Walking Dead shows to watch. Walking Dead Deluxe comes out each month. I'm tired.
Nice.
Awesome, man.
Well, we're gonna have Matteo drain the last bit of energy in the room with his bye-bye. Then we're gonna do our 30 minutes of our Patreon exclusive episode. So if you all want to hear that,
Patreon.
over to our Patreon. Subscribe.
So the bye-bye happens now.
enjoy.
Is that why Eric's putting in earplugs?
Yes, that's exactly right. And I'm getting ready to take mine out. All right, Matteo, give us a whammy.
It's still fucking going. Any second now, this is gonna end. It's still going.
I can't believe it's still going.
The Inkpulp podcast.